Hi everyone, this is Richard and welcome back to Stuff You Can Do in Excel, Tableau, and Power BI. We're looking at part 4 of our series of videos on how to get you into Tableau as a beginner. We looked at what the interface looks like. We've looked at how to upload the data file. Now let's look at how to create a simple visualization once you have a data file uploaded. So we're going to go back to our screen that we've seen. This is the data file we uploaded in part 3. It's our big bass fishing accounts receivable cleaned file, and now what we're going to do is learn how to work with this. So once we're here, we're going to click on sheet 1, and sheet 1 is going to take us to our working area, and I'm going to get rid of this. And actually, this is for a different data set, so I'm going to upload a new data set here. No, this is right. This is the right one. Okay, we're good. So we've got our data file, and what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to create some simple visualizations. So remember, our interface, these are our dimensions, these are our measures down here. Over here is the different types of visualizations we can create with our data, and then we've got our working screen here. Here's our marks, here's where we put in our filters. So what we're going to do first, let's just put in initially, let's look at our data. We've got a couple of things that need to be fixed. This identified the customer number as a measurement. It's actually not a measurement, it's a dimension. So I'm going to drag that up and put it. You notice it not only changed it to blue, but it left it as a number. We could actually change that by clicking down. We could convert it to a measure or to a continuous. I don't want to do that. It's right now, it's identified here as a dimension, so that's going to be. We can change the type to a string if we wanted to, or we could just leave it as a number. I think leaving it as a number is okay. Same thing with invoice number. We can drag that up, and it's going to change from green to blue, and it's going to still identify it as a number instead of as a string. Now, it did identify our due dates as with the calendar icon. Those are dates, and city and state were identified as geographic measures. That's kind of neat. We can do some neat stuff with that. So our first visualization might be something as simple as saying, let's look at each of our customers, and let's look at how much of the amount is due from each of those. And so we get a chart that looks like this. Now, one thing we don't have is we don't have any values. Well, we can get that if we take the amount due and put it over label in our marks area, drop it in label. It's going to add the label in for us, which is kind of, now if I hover over that, I can get the same information, but it's kind of nice to have it in that label. The next thing I might want to do is, it's kind of hard to see all this because they're all the same color. I might want to change that. I might want each customer to have their own color. I can do that by dragging customer number over color, and it will change the color for each customer. I can actually go into this and change the colors that I want to use. If I click up here, I can edit the colors. If I actually click on color, it gives me a bunch of options I could use, and I could change each one of those if I wanted to. Now I can take these off here very easily. I can just take customer and just drag it back over to the dimensions area, and sure enough, and I don't have to do it there. I can take some, just drag it down this blank area, and it takes it off as well. So I'm going to put those back in here, label and customer color, those things. Now I might want to do size too. This is kind of interesting. I might want to do customer by size, and if I do customer by size, this is what's going to be interesting here. Watch this. I get this thing where it's it shrunk each one of these by, it looks like by width. It made it smaller. I could, if I wanted to, let's see what happened if I put amount up there under size. It does a similar thing, right? It does, and that actually sort of highlights it even more. And if I really wanted to do this, I could go in, let's say I wanted to use this like bubbles, right? I could do bubbles here, and that's kind of cool. Let's put customer number, let's just put it in as let's go up here instead of circles. Let's use, we could use bars, we could use lines, so we could do that. That doesn't really help us much. What if we use squares? Oh, there you go. That's just this visualization right there. What if instead of squares we used different shapes? That doesn't help us much. So what if we used here text? Oh, there we've got a word cloud. So I'll show you how to do a word cloud again in another supplemental video, but it's kind of nice. So I can go back, I can do this pretty much the way I want to do it and set it up any way I want to set it up, right? So we'll do that. We can go back and do this video again. Now, when I click on this up here, it gives me this horizontal version where I've got the customer numbers on the y-axis and the amounts on the x-axis. I really didn't want that. Remember, originally customer number was up in columns and sum was down here in rows. I can flip that very easily using this little icon right here on my line. I click that and it's going to move the amount due down to the rows and customer number up to the columns, and there it is. So I'm back to my original. The other thing I can do is I can arrange these smallest to largest or largest to smallest, and again we can put customer number on color if we wish. There it is. Now the problem is these aren't real easy to undo. The only easy way to undo this is to go click that bar chart again and then flip it back to the way we normally see it, and now it looks like it is, but then we got to add the color back. So again, it's just a tool for helping us to identify these numbers. So there's a lot we can do with this, right? Another thing that we can do with this is if you go under the analytics line, click on that, and there's two tabs, data, and there's analytics. Click on analytics. I can add an average line in there, right? So I can add the average line, and I'm going to drag it over. So it's again click and drag. So I drag it over here, and look at that. It's going to give me an average reference line, and I can actually drag that average line onto label. It's going to tell me. Let's see, does it tell me? It doesn't tell me what that average is. It does tell me here the average is 16,459.22222, but it doesn't actually add it to the label, does it? So that doesn't help me. But that's an interesting tool I can use. I can add an average with a 95% confidence limit. So there you go. So it's 95% of my observations fall plus or minus, or fall within 95% of the average. So that's kind of a neat thing to know. You got one big outlier. The rest of them aren't really outliers, right? So that's kind of a neat tool I can use. So anyway, that's sort of how we can create simple visualizations. I can go over here. I can change these. Maybe I want to do a pie chart. That pie chart doesn't look very good. I can do a stack chart. That doesn't help me much, unless I want to do something like, if I go back to data, I want to do customer number and invoice, and let's say state. Okay. If I did a stack chart there, I'd get it stacked by state, right? But I don't know the labels, so I'd have to put customer number in here in labels to see what each of those customer numbers were that were related to that. I could look at geographic, by the way. If I wanted to do a map, I can do a map of this, and sure enough, I'm going to get a map of the United States. I don't particularly like that one because of the way it's set up. So let's pull this out and see if we can get a single state here, just one map. So we're going to put customer number up at the top. We're going to put sales or amount due down under here, and we're going to get, whoops, it didn't go there, did it? I'll put it there again, and we get that, and we can go to say it's not going to give us a map. Doesn't like to give us a map with that, does it? So we could simply take that out and move state up here. And sure enough, it's going to give us, if we click on that, it gives us this map, a map of the United States. Texas is real tiny little amount. I got Georgia, I got North Carolina, most of it's right here in the middle of Tennessee, right? That shows you by set. If I want to do it by city, I can do that as well. Maybe I'd want to put city in there, okay? And we'll put there. And sure enough, it shows me by city. Which the relative size of all these. I can do it simply by shading and change my chart to a chart that looks like, well, come on now, help me out here. It's not wanting to help me here. Usually what that allow me to do is allow me to put in allows me to shade it. There we go. That's sort of what we're trying to do. If we get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of that. Let's put in city. And we'll put in amount due, and we'll go up here to this. This gives us a sort of a shaded kind of situation. It's not. It doesn't want me to use that particular one on this particular. There it goes. If I take the city, just do it by state, I can do it by shade it by state. The darker the state, the bigger the total sales. So I can do that as well. I got this thing where I do this, sort of like a bubble chart except using squares. I don't particularly like it. I'm going to go back to this because I kind of liked it better. But this is actually kind of even the better one. It gives me an idea of where we are. So we can do a lot of things with simple visualizations. Remember, we can stack these visualizations up here. So what if I did one, I do amount due, and I'm going to do it customer number, but I'm going to do it by state. So that's kind of nice. I can now see, here's my customer number top, here's the state they're in down here, so that's kind of nice. But what if I switched it? What if I wanted to do state first and then customer number? Now it's grouped it by state, and I can actually then take state and color it, so I've got each state as a different color. And I can sort of see, and maybe I want to get this thing off these bubbles. I don't necessarily want I want everybody the same size, so same width anyway. So I can sort of get an idea. There's where most of my sales in Tennessee. I have some over here in Georgia and North Carolina, and very few sales down here in Texas. So I can stack these things. I can put different measures. I can put days past due and sales in the same. I can do a split chart. So I've got, here's my days past due up on the bottom. On the bottom here's my amounts. So Tennessee, not only does customer 131 have the highest amount past due, they also have a really high number of days past due. Now, customer 129 doesn't have quite as much due, but it's pretty late, right? So again, same thing down here with the one in Texas. Not very much money, but it's really past due. So you can see these two charts. You can stack those things as well, and I could just simply flip it, and now you got the past due on the top and the amounts due on the bottom. So again, you can stack these. You can do them any way you want. You can add any number of things up on the y-axis. The problem is, as you begin to do that, why not just filter it, right? Why not just do it as a filter? And you can do a filter, by the way. We can do a filter by city. We can put a filter in, and maybe I just want to look at just Cookeville. Okay, so I could look at just Cookeville, and I could see how that's looking. Or I could look at, maybe I want to go in and look at, let's see. Let's edit the filter. Let's go in and look at Sparta, and just look at the ones in Tennessee. Right? I could do that. But if I wanted to look at Tennessee, why not use state as a filter? So I can drag it up, add it as a filter. And maybe I just want to look at Tennessee, and there's the ones in Tennessee. So I can filter this data quite thoroughly, looking at it any way I want to in a lot of different formats and a lot of different configurations. So that's just a really important thing to know as you're building these simple visualizations in Tableau.